And good afternoon, everyone. Hurricane Helene makes landfall, millions without power, southeast U.S. I'm right here in East Tennessee. North Carolina, overtopping dams, 233-year flood records broken. And I'm still here with big winds with my cables running around the house with splitters because when the power goes out, one pole and the generator is ready to go. Let's get into it. And Hurricane Helene making landfall just over Perry, Florida. Taking a look at the cloud top heights here. Also, NOAA putting out a nice image here of the eye wall formation before landfall. Goes east, picking this one up. And most surprising for me is watching some of these footage from highway cams. Thank you, Florida State Highway Department, for allowing me to use this footage here. I can't believe people are driving in this. I mean, they must be used to it, but for me, there's no way I would be on that road. But that's just me. After the hurricane made landfall, pulled straight in over Georgia, making its way up into North Carolina, and all that moisture got trapped on the east side of the Appalachia, and that came down in what I would call biblical flooding. Imagine the middle of the night, the floodwaters come this deep into your home. This is suburbs of Asheville, North Carolina. The insurers are absolutely going to lose billions trying to rebuild in this, what is now a very popular town, to pay cash to move into the houses. They're having a housing problem anyway. There's just not enough houses. People wanting to buy so much, paying cash, moving in from other states. But that digress. Absolute historic floods. You have to look at the flood gauges on this. The Swannanoa River, April 1791 was the last time this water height was reached. That's 233 years. I used a calculator. And every river gauge across the area is being pushed at either 100-year floods or 100-year plus floods, 150, 200, 200 plus. If you look at the last river gauge here, it says 15.4 feet. If you go over here, 20.7 feet, and that is going to blow through that like it's standing still. 1916 was the flood that this will eclipse as soon as the high water is reached in the next few hours. But the image here is from the 1916 flood. Now there was a lot more commerce really tucked in down toward the river. Hadn't expanded as much. Obviously, if you're further back 100 and some years, the expansion wasn't there like it is today to utilize every square inch for business. Build it and they will come. Knoxville is very much the same way. I don't care if it's a square foot lot, they want it developed. And almost every river gauge higher than normal. And when we come and you're 10 foot over, 4 foot over the old record, that's a lot. It's not just a few inches. That is an enormous amount of water coming down. Nobody talks about Hunga Tonga. And the extra 10%, well, it's actually 14% moisture vapor in the atmosphere that's now coming out after that 2022 eruption. Nobody wants to talk about that. But let's talk about the electrical outages here. I'm sitting at the east corner of Tennessee, right where the red meets the orange. Massive winds through today. That storm is spinning back on itself when we're starting to get west winds. But the power outages are everywhere. And during this time, if you don't have power, having food is as good as having tradables, commodities. We've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now one doctor says that's nothing but old news. Dr. Lakey has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? So he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough. It's almost like Photoshop for your face. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the Age Rewinder method, because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Lakey has released a step-by-step video to the public, free, uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. The video's since gone viral. At first it was shared by Facebook users, but since has racked up 2.3 million views. Thousands of people reporting they look decades younger. So you can find more about this yourself right now. Go watch the video, bhmd1.com/adapt right now, or click on that link in the description box below. That's bhmd1.com/adapt. And now on with the video. And so your ATMs aren't working. You're not going to be able to get money. You're going to trade something. And if you have the food, you can help your neighbors out. It's not a never-ending disaster. This will be over in a couple of weeks, and these communities will come together to pick up the pieces. And when I say that, I really mean, helping your neighbors. If you had this extra food and they weren't prepared, and you had some hipster who had one egg sandwich in the refrigerator and one tiny bottle of water to get through to the next workout session or get to the gym or something, you're going to want to help them. Absolutely. That's the whole thing about you being more prepared than another, so you can help other people. That's the whole point. And by the way, I wasn't kidding when I say that. I'm running with a bunch of splitters in the house here. These are already set up, and these go off to the battery back up here, and that's the one that's real close, can plug directly in the head. And this green's already connected over to that battery, back up and ready to go. And as soon as anything happens, really, it is pull, go, because I've already prepared for this. So this happened many a time. Like in the wintertime, we always lose power. So for me, it was sort of an exercise. I had a few things in the wrong places. I was looking for some of my weather radios, but they were in a backpack, not in my regular storage area. So looking for that. And this, bitten by a dog on my hand. I was separating my dog from my neighbor's dog through a fence when they were fighting, and whap, got nipped on that. So imagine trying to do this with bunk fingers from a dog bite and then trying to set up. So, I myself was a triage patient trying to get through this, and everything was overlapping at the same time. But it's all about trying to help your neighbors. It truly is. And for anybody out there, whether it be, if there's a financial collapse somewhere and you do have the means and you stocked away some gold and silver, buy their farm. Keep them on their property. Don't let the banks take their property. These are the types of things that communities do for each other. And in small towns in Appalachia coming through, they're definitely going to help each other get back to rebuilt again. Thing is, property prices have just skyrocketed. People coming from different states paying cash, and, mountain towns, people are, working regular jobs, and, something that cost $200,000 a few years ago, $700,000 now. I mean, it's getting outside the range of most people to be able to afford a house that are working normal jobs. If you're in a, sort of these mountain towns, or if you're out on farms, the prices have run away. So that thing being said, the reason I tell you that is the rebuilding costs are absolutely going to make some of these places unsurable moving forward. And maybe that's the plan. These massive storms coming in on the 200-year levels now that we are starting to see as the normal 500-year floods, 1,000-year floods. At that point, can they call it a flood risk where it's no longer insurable? Because California is doing the same thing. Once the fires sweep through, they're like, fire risk uninsurable. You can't insure your home. Unless it's paid for, you have to leave the property. But who's going to be there to swoop it up when it's done? And this is what I really want to keep an eye on moving forward, because that whole Asheville area all the way over here in East Tennessee where I live, there's a lot of communication. Like the ham network is going absolutely insane right now, talking about the overtopping dams. The one dam collapse is now cascading down. Been two dams that have gone on imminent failure over there already. But the word and warnings first came out through ham radio networks. It wasn't actual news networks that picked it up. So being able to know your local ham base station somewhere that's going to be a repeater that you can operate off of, or the clubs that are in your area that can then help transfer information even across the mountains, hop, skipping, and jumping. It's going to be about community moving forward. Always has been. That's the way villages always survive through history. Learn from this. It is a big one, and I'm trying to absorb as much information and lessons out of this as I can as well. Because one thing in history, I'm just wondering, these vast buildings that have been around for thousands, plural, of years, are they just building on the high ground? How many volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and these magnificent structures still exist, yet a 200-year flood will wipe away bridges, neighborhoods, cities, in just like a flash here in our modern infrastructure. Now jumping over to strangeness as well. This comes out of Turkey. This is one of the largest water spots ever recorded in terms of width. And that hurricane Helene was also the widest hurricane ever recorded in September. Like from east to west, if you're going to measure that across, it was the widest one ever. So let's talk about lightning for a second. This is Chicago, and for me that is ground to sky lightning. That does not look like what you consider cloud discharge to ground. I'm going to stop it for you here. For me, that really looks like ground to sky lightning. And I'm wondering what kind of effect would allow that to run up through a building and discharge out to the clouds themselves. Because this is what I would consider lightning coming from a cloud to the ground. Again, something is very amiss in our entire planetary system at the moment. And as I do these types of videos, please remember to join me over on Rumble and BitChute, Adapt 2030 channels over there, and the Civilization Cycle podcast. Now, speaking about unusual lightning, this is discharge emanation point rotating back and coming back to the same discharge point. I mean, I could see it coming down out of the cloud and rolling and making some unique formations, which we've always seen, but not going back to the same point that it discharged from. This is so unusual here. What you're seeing would be lightning history 101 right here. This is so abnormal in itself. You know, you're talking about different polarity charges, but generally once it discharges, that is gone. Now, how does it roll back in on itself? Again, you know, a lot of people are trying to decipher the science out of this because it's something that is so rarely seen that it just doesn't make sense. Well, the whole world doesn't make sense now. Keep an eye on that. If you get any reports, please throw them back here in the comment box. I appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And remember, moving forward as we continue through some of these smaller breakdowns in the beginning, and when we get to larger types of, shall we say, disruptions is a good word to use, you're going to need to be with the community at that point. I mean a real community of people helping each other that have skills, that can share skills and work through this. So anyway, bye for now.